We have with us Alison Wedig, who is from Culvers, works at Culvers Franchising Systems, and she's here to share a little bit about her. And Alison, if you could you please just introduce yourself and then just give a little background of your position and what that really all entails?
Yeah, thanks, Joe, for having me. It's good to see all the Darlington faces on here. I did grow up in Darlington, Wisconsin, but really excited to get to know all the rest of you that might be watching later on. I started really my FFA journey in the Darlington FFA, and it's because of that I have the career I do now at Culver Franchising Systems. My role is in marketing and public relations, and that really looks like thinking about how we can talk about food and agriculture, but then also how we talk about Culver's brand across our many different audiences. And I joined Culver's right after college, but before I started at Culver's, I actually served as a Wisconsin state officer. So good to see so many smiling faces, and really am excited to talk more with you about all things FFA, Culver's, and all that entails.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alison, for joining us. What we'll be doing now is this is really a time that anyone is able to answer questions, and Alison is here to answer them. They can be agricultural based, and if you would like to ask a question, either raise your physical hand or put it in the chat. Either or works. We will make sure we monitor those, but we do have some questions to kick things off. So I think Jackie's going to start with those.
Yeah, so you talked a little bit about how FFA really helped you get into the position that you are in today, which is amazing. But how did your time as an FFA member directly, as well as being a state officer, directly help you prepare for your career?
I mean, there are so many ways, so I could talk for hours just on that topic. But I think if you really think about what it means to be a great worker and be prepared for your career, it's a lot of the skills that FFA instills, whether that's thinking about hard work and getting things done in a timely manner, or that's thinking about being able to communicate and show up on video calls like this, excited to engage and participate. But then thinking about it even further, I think FFA prepared me tremendously by thinking about parliamentary procedure and meeting management, as well as thinking about the background I got from the diversity of programs within agriculture, as well as the people I was able to meet. So all of that taken into account, I really think that one of the biggest ways that FFA prepared me for my career was the ability to get to know people more and network. When you think about what you need to do from your time in high school to your time as a state officer, to your time as a chapter officer, to college, to your first job, it's really about being able to meet people, have relationships with them, and then implement that into your job, because no matter what you do or where you go, you're going to need that skill. So I think that's probably my number one thing that I'll likely highlight a few times in different ways here during our chat.
Thank you, Alison. Such great advice, and it's great that we as FFA members have the opportunity to take part in some of these activities to build those skills. Our next question comes from Nathan in the chat, and he's asking, what part of the state would you say that the most milk that Culvers uses comes from?
Oh, that's such a tricky question. You're coming out with the hard ones, Nathan. Okay, so I would say that's a really tough answer, because you don't necessarily think about it that way when you think about the structure of our supply chain. But one of the best ways I can probably explain one part is when you think about Culver's cheese curds, and those are made at LaGrander Hillside Dairy, and that's pretty much central Wisconsin. So I would say Culver's cheese curds is a good explanation for right there. So for FFA terms, probably like that section 7.
That is so cool. So good to know. And being at Culvers, can you explain the Thank You Farmer project that Culvers has, and maybe how you have been involved in it?
Mm-hmm. The Thank You Farmers Project started in 2013, so it's been around for quite a few years. And I'm going to date myself, but that's when I really graduated high school and started my journey as a state officer for Wisconsin FFA. And that's actually why I mentioned why I have my job that I do now, because of the connections I made with that project. The Thank You Farmer Project started, I mean, show of hands, who's seen the blue barns in Wisconsin? Yeah, okay, so we all have. It really started with that. It was a big thank you for agriculture and for all of the hard work that our farmers do. And it started as a way to say thank you for that effort. And then as that continued on and Culvers wanted to do more than just say thank you, we started looking at, okay, how can we actively make a difference in the future of agriculture and ensure that when we get to more people, how can we feed them? And when we thought about that, it was really coming back to all of you all as young leaders in agriculture. The skill sets that you have, the passion that you have is going to drive the agricultural industry forward. And that's what the focus became. So when we move from really celebrating farmers to the actual Thank You Farmers Project, as you mentioned, that was really the heart and soul of it. And so to date, I'll give you a sneak peek. We're going to be announcing next week how much money we've actually raised. It's a new number from 2020, but so far it's $2.5 million to support ag education and FFA. And next week you're going to hear an even bigger number. So all of that, all those dollars go to supporting your future and ensuring that Culvers can play an active role in ensuring that those youth can do even more in the future. And I can go into more of those specifics, but I think that's generally what you think of when you think of the Thank You Farmers Project. It's supporting you as young leaders in FFA.
That is truly amazing, and we're honored that Culvers and its continued support for our organization. Our next question comes from the chat from Sam, and it says, what exactly do you do at Culvers? And can you put in a request to bring back the pretzel bites?
Ooh, good question. So what I do at Culvers, has anyone ever heard of public relations? Show of hands for me. Okay, so public relations, a lot of times you think about like marketing, that's actively pushing out messages that you might have to pay for. So you have to pay for a billboard message, you have to pay for a social advertisement, you can do some organic, but public relations is actually sending out press releases and information to get reporters to talk about Culvers and provide them the right information. So that is a huge part of my job. With Lent starting this week, we were sending out information so that reporters knew what Lent offerings that they could get at Culvers. And then as a part of that side of it, I also work on our influencer program. And that's really getting young, hip people, probably cooler than me, that have a lot of followers on social media to also talk about Culvers and get their followers to come to our restaurant or to love Culvers even more. And that's really all a part of that public relations and marketing side of my job. And then as I just mentioned, the Thank You Farmers Project, that's about the other 50% of my job. So I'm thinking about how I can connect with you all as FFA members and other parts of the agriculture industry. So if you've ever heard of the United States Farmers and Ranchers in Action, that's a group of people from across the supply chain, including farmers all the way to the retailers and restaurants like us that really are thinking about the future of agriculture, ensuring its sustainability, things like that. So I also support those efforts and making sure Culvers is at the center of key conversations within agriculture. So kind of two roles within my job at Culvers, thinking about public relations and sharing those messages, but then also the Thank You Farmers Project and connecting to the food and agricultural industry. And I didn't forget about your last part, those pretzel bites. They were a limited time offer. And I can't tell you more than that, but I'm just going to say you will be excited. So never fear.
I know I'm excited for pretzel bites to make their return. They were amazing. But we have another question from the chat, and this is, what made you want to do the Culvers Franchising Marketing?
Yeah, that is a really tough question. And if you asked me 5 years ago if I would have been like, what I thought I was going to do was what I'm doing, it probably would have been no. I wouldn't have guessed this. So there wasn't a one thing that changed my mind to make me fall into this position. I'd say it was a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, but what made me decide on marketing was really my experience in FFA. My senior year of high school, got my CNA, which is like on the nursing side. And I really thought I was going to go into either be a doctor or some part of the medical field. And it was learning by doing that I realized I did not want to do that. And the other biggest passion I had was really talking about agriculture and ensuring that although I didn't grow up on a farm, I understood my friends and neighbors were working hard in the industry and there was some bad perceptions. So my other biggest thing that I loved doing was clearing those up and ensuring that people knew. And so that led me to UW-Madison. And throughout that, I started as a communications major, and the route that led me to Culvers was really that I get to do a lot of marketing and communications for a really big brand, but then I also get to ensure that they support agriculture. So I lucked out that it was the best of both worlds, but the advice I have, since I do say it's a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work, is find what you don't like, because sometimes it's okay to have an internship or do a summer job that you look back and you're like, ooh, that was not fun. I never want to do that for the rest of my life, because that helps you understand what you do like doing. And the more you find out those things, the easier it's going to be to find that forever job or a job that you really love doing every day.
So we have another question in the chat from Nathan, and it says, what are your thoughts on the anti-beef movement and that is starting with companies coming out with fake beef?
That's a tricky question, and I'm really glad you asked, because it's important to think about that as a food company and people who are actively talking to our consumers. I think, even just the way you phrase the question, calling it fake beef, that's our perception maybe as food and agriculturalists, but there are some people who that's what they are choosing to eat. So we really have to think about it twofold and make sure that we're advocating to support our farmers, but also maybe being cautious of how we talk about it for people who wouldn't call it fake beef. They would call it their diet. So thinking about it from that standpoint, I think it's important to just educate people on what really the health benefits to eating beef are, why a good butter burger is not only good for you, but also delicious. So come on. But I also think it's okay to allow people to have options. So this past year in 2020, Culvers launched our Harvest Veggie Burger. And when I first heard it was called the Harvest Veggie Burger, I thought about it for a second and was like, well, technically it's not what I define as a burger. But to some of our guests, it would be considered a burger in their eyes. And I really enjoy that this burger has cheese in it, because how Wisconsin of it to have cheese and vegetables, and it might not have technically meat in it, but thinking about options is a good way to engage people in a conversation. But really, my thoughts on this are, I love beef. I'm glad that Culver's serves butter burgers. I don't think we'll be starting any kind of burger that isn't like that in the future, but I think it's important to provide options for those who might want to go a different way. Good question.
Thank you for that input on that. It's very interesting side of things, looking from each of us going to Culvers to consume it on the consumer side, but also coming from the producer side as you're there and the stuff that you do working with Culvers. Our next question for you is, what career opportunities can be found with Culvers?
So I think the biggest one is obviously going to your local restaurant and having an opportunity to work as a team member, either in the front of the house, so serving the guests, or obviously in the back of the house, serving up delicious scoops of custard and grilling up butter burgers. But the one thing I would say in regards to joining the Culvers team in your local community is that Culvers is a really cool organization in terms of building people's careers. we have so many people who now, or owner operators who started as team members and now they own their own restaurant. So when you think about entrepreneurship and what we're taught in FFA, there's a really great synergy to those workers at Culvers. They might start as a team member in high school and end up owning multiple Culvers by the time that their career is over. And that's all about that leadership and growth that we're instilling. And we also have a mentorship program there. So that's a really great way to get involved within the careers at your local Culvers. But then where I work is called our Culver Franchising System. And we serve all of the different owner operators and Culvers restaurants. And so today there are over 780 restaurants, and we're making sure that they have the food that they need via our supply chain team. We're making sure that they have marketing resources within my role, and we're communicating about the brand, but we also have a development team, a finance team, and a human resources team, and a field team that ensures food safety and all the things. I could keep going. So there are lots of opportunities and different careers that fit within our building as well. And those are very similar across the food service industry.
That's really great to hear about all the different opportunities that Culvers offers for students and individuals to become employed there as well. But now branching off of that, you had mentioned that you became employed at Culvers because of your experience within the FFA. So now as FFA members and students, what skills does Culvers look for when hiring?
I would say soft skills for sure. I'm sure you've all heard that before. It's definitely serving our guests with a big smile, having the ability to talk to people, working hard, building relationships. All of those skills are critical and a really important opportunity to have at Culvers, and honestly any job that you'd get. So I think you can never go wrong with beefing up your soft skills and really just getting experience.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I know there's a lot of ways that students and employees, both in high school and out of high school, can find ways to build both those soft and hard skills throughout their careers. And so another question that we have is how does Culvers sponsor and partner with FFA with the FFA organization?
We do a number of different things throughout the year to support not only local FFA chapters from the local restaurants, but all of you at Wisconsin FFA, as well as nationally in different programs. One of the biggest things we sponsor from a technical side is the Milk Quality Career CDE event. And obviously I'm a little rusty on my FFA acronym, so someone can help me out on the exact way to say that one. But we support the Milk Quality and Career Development, there we go, CDE. And that's a huge thing because it's tying directly to our programming and what Culvers is all about with the dairy industry too. We also support just the concert, which is a little sad since National Convention concerts, we don't have to get all into that, but each year we support the National FFA Convention concert, as we also have a booth there where we serve up custard and get to know more FFA members at the National Convention. But really, we have a number of different programs, including the Give the Gift of Blue program, where we are inspiring our local owner operators to give blue jackets to FFA members like yourself who may not have one. And we also do that within our CFS team, or our Culver Franchising System team, where I work, encouraging them to donate blue jackets. One of my favorite programs that I have to mention tonight, since it's kicking off next week, is our annual FFA essay contest. And our essay contest this year, actually, if you're maybe not into writing as much, we'll be launching a video component. So instead of answering the prompt only in writing, you can also answer the prompt by creating a video that's under 5 minutes. So those details will be coming live next week. But each year, this prompt really is all about inspiring you all to think about the agriculture industry and its future. And this year, the prompt will be really around thinking about COVID and the future of the agriculture industry and how sustainability falls into that. So I'm excited. I hope some of you will participate in the annual FFA essay contest.
Hey, so my question's a little bit like not as serious as we've been talking about in the last couple questions, but I think whenever I drive by a Culvers and I see those flavor of the days, it just like amazes me of all the creative different flavors that you guys come up with. How do you come up with so many flavors for flavor of the days?
Ooh, that's a little bit before my time, but I can tell you what I do know. So the Flavor of the Day program started when Culver started, and really they've been building up flavors for a long time. But I think this might be interesting for all of you. When you think about food science and really what it makes to make a good ice cream, and for our case, a good custard flavor, you really have to think about balancing the different. Sometimes you want some crunch and some sweet or salty flavor. And so really it's a science. And we have an entire menu team at Culvers that's a part of our marketing team. So that's really great. You get some free taste tests and samples, but they really work to make sure that one, our flavors of the day meet those food science needs. So they're not all squishy or all one flavor. They have some different varieties, but then also that they're what our guests are looking for. Believe it or not, turtle is one of our top flavors, if not the top flavor. There are a lot of people who like the turtle sundae and the turtle flavor of the day. Not my cup of tea. I'm more into that cookie dough life, but there are a lot of, oh, I see some head nods. Yeah, everybody else likes the cookie dough. But there are a lot of differences in that case. I can tell you a fun secret. I don't know what I'm supposed to be, what I can share, but I'll tell you this one. We're going to have a Scoops of Thanks Day this year, which is always to support FFA, which is another big program that Culvers has. This year, we're going to have an FFA flavor of the day. So on May 6th, something will be a little more agriculture themed and tied to one of our flavors. So an even better reason to come out and support Scoops of Thanks Day, because the flavor will have a tie to the agriculture industry. So really, really excited about that news. So flavors of the day, they're all very different. We announce new ones sometimes, we remove some, they have different varieties, but obviously my new favorite flavor is going to be the one that ties to agriculture, which will be May 6, 2021. So mark your calendar.
Thank you. That is
I see some calendars marked.
that is so exciting. I'm sure we'll all be there to get our scoops of that new ice cream. Kind of going off of that and different changes into the future, how do you see Culvers in 20 years, or maybe your role changing within the franchising system moving forward?
Well, Culvers is a really neat business because when you think about owner operators, sometimes different companies and different even restaurant businesses, they're selling their franchises. So they're looking for people to just come in and start a restaurant. We are looking for people who want to be active owner operators. So they want to lead their teams. They want to be a part of the community. And I think that's why Culvers is so special, because a lot of times when you walk into your local Culvers, that owner operator is going to be there alongside his team, serving up your chicken tenders. And that's a really important part. And so with that model, I think we see a lot of success along with our quality food that uniquely enables Culvers to grow. This past year, we had 50 restaurants, new restaurants, which was a record-breaking year for us, that entered into the Culver system. And you think about that in a year like 2020 during a pandemic, that is a really, really great accomplishment. So to your question, Ben, when you think about where we're going to be, I think it means that we are in the route of continuing to grow, and we're going to be evolving to obviously meet our guests' needs and be able to adapt to a growing supply chain, as well as all of the different initiatives that happen at Culvers. But I think the future is bright. And so that means for me and my role within the Thank You Farmers Project will be continuing to evolve our ability to support food and agriculture. We'll be continuing to tell that message and really help more people as Culvers grows understand that we couldn't serve the great quality products we do in our restaurants without the food and agricultural and farmers who help us get there.
That is so amazing, and we are so appreciative of all of that. We have another question from Sam in the chat. You shared with us your favorite custard earlier, but for most of us, when we go to Culvers, we always have that go-to favorite meal. So what is your go-to favorite Culvers meal?
This might be the hardest question of the night because I like everything. I'm going to give two because I'm going to cheat your question and go for two. But if I'm just going quickly to grab like a lunch, I would get chicken tenders with sweet and sour sauce and just the regular fries. And then, of course, like the flavor of the day. If I'm going all out, my fiance is a dairy farmer. So sometimes after a hard day, we just, head to Culver's for a big meal. I'm going to go with a Butterburger cheese with the works, no onion, and onion rings, and a mini concrete mixer. And one of my favorites is pumpkin salted caramel with cookie dough. You can get that only in the fall when pumpkin's back, but like highly recommend that one. So that's another great option. But the salads are great. The fish is good. If you need an idea for something to try, we can spend the next 15 minutes on ideas to amp up your Culvers game too.
You are truly making me hungry by just talking about all of these different options. This next question is a little interesting, but there's going to be two parts of it. The first one is we see Quick Trip with their marketing a lot of times joking as Culvers as their best friend. So in the future, can we see a partnership between Culvers and Quick Trip? And then going along with that, why is marketing and communication so important for a company such as Culver?
I will start with the Quick Trip. I think that we do work with them in some array of ways. We've talked to them with their social media team, but I agree there is more to be done to bring that love. I think a lot of people are doing it for us because cheese, Quick Trip, and Culvers is so Wisconsin. I don't even know that we need a whole campaign because everyone just understands. But if you go, Culvers just has a new TikTok that started this year. And one of the TikToks we shared was like someone eating custard outside in the snow, and then they pan over and it's Quick Trip right next to them. So the vibes, very true. A weird fun fact is my brother-in-law actually works at the Quick Trip headquarters. So our family is just very Wisconsin. So we're really rolling in that space. So I'll see what I can do. I'll have to ask him after this what he's got cooking over there. But in terms of marketing and communications and a company, I think it is absolutely critical that you have a marketing and communications plan, and you also have a team that can implement it, because as we know, it's really important to share the right messages at the right time, the right audience. And yes, you can create a memo, you can create a social post, but if you don't have a goal in mind, you're not going to create the best content that you can. And so I really think that it's important to have those skills. And one additional piece to that is when you think about even communications, I've talked a lot about that public relations tonight, as well as the marketing of the Thank You Farmers project. But another part of my role that sometimes forget about is internal communications. So when you think about agriculture communications, or even if you just want to go into marketing and communications, there is also a really important role that plays with a communications from your internal office or your organization or your corporation, making sure that everyone that works there is on the same page. So I support a lot of our written communications that gets just told to our franchisees to make sure that they know everything that's happened. And without those, we would not all be on the same page and things would get lost in translation. So I think the summary of that is marketing and communications are a really important part of making sure that you can strategically communicate the goals, the values, the corporate responsibility of the organization that you work for.
That's super exciting. And so you talked a little bit about how many Culvers we have in total, but how many states are Culvers in?
25 states. So a lot of states, I mean, half, I guess. So half the states, and mainly the Midwest area, but Texas, Arizona, Florida, Ohio, Georgia. They are expanding. So I cannot be quoted on this, but Culvers, besides Wisconsin being a really big state for number of Culvers, I believe Florida is one of our top states as well. So I always call it the snowbirds. Like, you love Culvers so much that you need more when you go to live your life in the warm. So Florida does so well.
That is one thing I'm very grateful for, is having a Culver's just a few miles from my house. And I know our team appreciates it too when we're in Marshfield. So another question that I have for you is, what is the biggest thing that just makes Culver's stand out from the other fast food restaurant? What really sets them apart and makes them different?
Quality food for sure. Since the beginning, when Culver's was created, the co-founders, Craig and Lee Culver, they knew that they didn't want to sacrifice in the quality of their food. And so while other chains and other restaurants maybe decide that they want to save a few bucks and go for this less quality burger, or they don't necessarily care about this ingredient, that's something that Culver's has never done. They've never cut corners. It's always been about making sure that our food is quality, filled with quality ingredients, which to us as agriculturalists is very important. But then another piece is really the hospitality and people business that Culver's understands. One of my favorite parts of working for Culver's is understanding that they care so much about their community, and the share nights that we do for FFA or the local basketball team or the local church, those are because the local owner operators want to give back to the community and ensure that the people who are coming to support them by visiting their restaurant, ordering food, that they can give back as well. So quality food, thinking about people and the hospitality and community are huge reasons that Culver's continues to be successful and grow. And there's tons more, but those are probably my top three.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And now another question here is, what would be the best piece of advice that you could give to our students right now?
Pressure's on.
This is a tough, you're asking me a lot of tough questions tonight. I would go back to what I said earlier again from the networking standpoint, is never be afraid. If anybody wants to come, maybe when COVID's a little bit better, come job shadow me. Those are important things to ask. It might be nerve-wracking, but that's how you learn what you do and don't like to do. I did a job shadow in sales, and I realized quickly that I liked some of the parts of sales, but not all of it. So network and try new things so that you know what you do and don't like doing. And then my other piece of advice is to not get caught up too much on the small things. I think a lot of times I even still learn, and I get caught up in the FFA world of, I need to accomplish this next thing. I need to win my proficiency. I need to become a state officer. I need to get straight A's in college. It's important to remember the milestones of just the excitement that you do have in reaching the goals that you can have. And to that point, celebrating those small moments along the way, because it's easy to get caught up in only those big awards and accomplishments and miss all the growth and learning that you're having along the way. So that's something I still keep working on. But even in my career, it's important to realize, just because I maybe didn't hit this goal, what did I learn along the way? So I would say just remember that. It's my Friday Night Life advice for you all.
Well, that was really some great advice for all of us to hear. And sometimes we can get wrapped up in all of that, but still keeping that core value of growth with us is something that's really important. But as we're wrapping up our discussion here pretty quick, we're going to get down to a really serious question here. And we talked about it a little bit, but are there any new products that Culvers is going to be releasing here soon? We talked about that scoop of thanks, but what else can we be seeing from you shortly?
Wow, you guys are really going to get me fired, making you share all this information. I'm just kidding. But I can't tell you really much more than I did. You know that Scoops of Thanks Day is coming. I mentioned that one of your favorite limited time offers might be back this year. Hint, hint, you can dip them in the cheese sauce. And then beyond that, be looking for some new custard options, whether it's in your concrete mixers or your flavor of the day. And then later this year, you should see it's going to be a returning Pretzel House Pub Burger. So there'll be some options in the burger space as well. But I can't give you any more specifics than that. But I would say if you're looking for new items and you haven't tried, get out there and try those new things on the menu that you maybe haven't tried. Has anyone tried the veggie burger yet? I'm asking probably the wrong crowd, but it's pretty good. You should try it. Anybody tried something different? One of the salads. Do I have any salads eaters out there? Some good grilled chicken, cranberry bacon blue salad. So there's some new things that you maybe haven't tried that you could try as you await these new menu items that you so want to know about. I'll have to make sure I email Mrs. Zimmerman as soon as I send a press release out about a new menu item so that you guys can be top of the list to find out. Oh, there she is. She's on the comments. Thanks, Mrs. Zimmerman.
So we have one last question for you, and it's so exciting, obviously, to hear all about all of these amazing things and these brand new Culvers items that we hope to hear more about coming up later this year. But we have one last question, and what has been the most rewarding part for you for our working at Culvers?
Honestly, it's working with all of you and the Thank You Farmers Project. I feel like I'm really so lucky to be able to continue the things that I started in my career in FFA and really helping people understand the importance of the food and value chain. And so now to be able to work at a company that gives back to the organization that I was most impacted by in high school and beyond is just extremely incredible. And I continuously look forward to being able to, even when I have a bad day or have to write a press release I don't want to, I always think back to how important it is, the work that we're doing to ensure that someone who comes to Culvers understands that we care about how their food got to them.
Well, thank you, Allison. And I think that really goes to show just your last point of how when we look for a career, find a career that you enjoy and that you always can find something that you will take home with you every single day. To wrap things up, we just want to say thank you. Culvers being a large sponsor, I guess on behalf of all Wisconsin FFA, and I'm sure I can say it on behalf of Nationals too. Thank you so much for your support, your willingness to chat with us on our Friday night too. So with that being said, if there are any other questions from our members, you can, if you want to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to wrap things up here and we'll call it a night. Thank you once again, Allison.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for being here on a Friday night and being excited about food and agriculture and FFA. Darlington members, I texted your advisor, Mr. Lobdell, and I gave you guys a shout out for being here. So you're gonna get extra brownie points. Maybe he'll buy you some custard. I'll send him a note.
He's the man.
Awesome. Well, you take care, Allison, and same to all the members. Thank you so much for attending this evening.
I got a girl from the south side. She got brains in her hair. First time I seen her walk by, man, I